Don't need that. Reload this. That's struggling. That sucks. Everything working? Everything good? Let me send out a message to the Discord. We live. Welcome everybody. It's gonna be a short, kind of quick stream. I'm mainly just taking a break from everything else I was doing today. Went out and bought some Noise Marines and an Imperial Knight, as you saw if you were here last night on stream. All I've been doing today is cutting sprues, sanding plastic down to shape, gluing it, knocking it over, praying that it hasn't shattered into a million pieces, cutting other pieces into shape, gluing, breaking apart corkboard, making bases, doing all that fun stuff that sometimes you wonder why you spend a couple $100 to give yourself labor to do, but it's an enjoyable process. Otherwise, we're here. We got more stuff from Ice Cold Snake. I was going to say, I find it odd that, like, Ice has another video that's going to get dropped on us tonight for, oh shoot, what was it? Iron Man, I think? Like the 360 Iron Man game? I think that I saw that it, like, premieres in, like, an hour. I'm a member over here, man. Why do I gotta wait till 10 p.m. to watch the video? I guess streaming it before then would be kind of lame, but why I gotta wait for the launch time? Anyways, we're back with some Ice, looking at some 360 games that I have not played. I haven't played the original Prey, and also looking at the Conan God of War clone. That'll be interesting. Last night we were watching Dante's Inferno, which was like a decent God of War clone. Like, it looked like an actual, fun game to play, an interesting game to play. At the very least, it had badass fucking, world design and stuff like that. So just tonight, we're going to relax, yap about games from the 360 era, and get into some more Ice Cold Snake and just sort of enjoy that without getting too heated about the fact that Xbox is making everything more expensive, which sucks, I know. But let's get into it. We're going to start with Prey. And maybe if we're here long enough, which we probably will be, we're going to look at Iron Man as well.
With a crazy history, from a nearly 10-year development cycle beginning all the way back in 1995 to receiving multiple Game of the Year awards from various outlets when it finally did release, to a sequel that looked to completely change the formula but was ultimately canceled due to internal politics, and eventually to having its name stripped from the IP and bolted onto a completely unrelated immersive sim from Arcane Studios in 2017, Prey has been floating around the gaming world for 30 years as both an incredible shooter and a cautionary tale about buying into the hype of early marketing of video games. Despite all of the praise for the original Prey and the fact that it was basically impossible to live through the Xbox 360 era.
I'm so sorry, Ice. I'm having such a hard time focusing right now with this jazzy, snazzy tune you got going. That is just dominating my senses at the moment.
Era without hearing its name or seeing that cover art. I never got around to actually playing it. I ended up spotting this copy of it at my local game store, and it shot right to the top of my backlog immediately. And on principle, I like to go into games blind, so I held off on researching anything about it before I started it. All I knew going in was people liked it, people are sad that the sequel got canceled, and Arcane's Prey was completely unrelated, and they were forced to use Prey's name for pretty much no reason. And I don't really know what I was expecting, but it sure as shit wasn't this.
Don't be scared. I'm getting us out of here, I promise.
You're gonna say that from the inside? Alien intubation chamber?
Oh my God!
Prey released in July of 2006 after 10 years in development. It was developed by Human Head Studios under contract by 3D Realms of Duke Nukem fame, or infamy as it would later turn out.
What kind of sick motherfucker picks up wet feces?
2K Games helped to publish the title, a fact that will become very relevant later in this video. Prey was praised for its opening sequence where an alien ship abducts the player and all other humans in the area. On board the ship, the player experiences gruesome mutilations and executions of the other victims. And this first hour of the game also shows off the innovative tech possible with the new id Tech 4 engine, as gravity shifts and some optical illusions and forced perspective puzzles occur, in addition to the use of orange and blue portals to teleport around the battlefield. And if you're thinking this is just a ripoff of Portal, remember that this came out a year and a half before Valve's Portal, so this blew the minds of players and reviewers. Prey would go on to sell...
It did come out a year and a half before, but I think the initial game that spawned Portal, because the developers of it that went on to work for Valve on Portal did come out in the 90s. I have no idea what the game's called. It's like Princess Monkey something. It's like a super fantastical thing, but they've like had that kind of same Portal mechanic in games before. I didn't know that it could come before Portal properly, though. That's interesting. I wonder if the Portal mechanics in Prey are anywhere near as how do you say, like, mechanically complex as they are in Portal. That'd be interesting to see. Or if it's more so like a teleport A to B Portal type thing.
Over 1 million copies and has a respectable Metacritic score of 83. The game was so successful that 3D Realms would announce that Prey 2 was in development only 6 months after the original release. Unfortunately for hopeful players, Prey 2 wouldn't even start development in earnest until 2009, and the game would eventually become a casualty of corporate politics, as it would miss its announced 2012 release window before being canceled altogether in 2014. You can still find people reminiscing about what could have been if Prey 2 was released, and all of that excitement and disappointment had to come from somewhere, right? Well, anyway, I'm Ice Cold Snake, and I'm on a mission to beat my backlog. I'm finally getting around to playing the games that I skipped back when they were released. So 19 years later, I finally played Prey to answer the question, was it actually good?
I don't know why I'm surprised when I hear that these games are like 19 years old. Like, Gears of War is about to be 20 years old next year. God, that game is old.
If you enjoy this kind of retrospective, you can support the channel for free by clicking the like button or subscribing and clicking the bell to be notified when new videos are uploaded. A massive thank you to my channel members who support my channel. If you'd like to support me and have your name included in this list, you can click the link in the pinned comment to become a channel member for only $1 a month. Prey is a first-person shooter developed in the then cutting-edge id Tech 4 engine. It was meant to be a showcase for the power of the engine, and anyone who has ever played Doom 3 will know exactly what it feels like. The player takes control of Damasi Tawadi, also known as Tommy, a member of the Cherokee tribe. Within minutes of the game starting, an alien craft shows up and abducts Tommy, his girlfriend Jen, and his grandfather Anisi from their bar in the southeastern US. Tommy is able to escape his fate of being processed on the assembly line for human processing, but unfortunately Anisi perishes and Jen is swept off to parts unknown.
Oh my god, no! No!
We battle through the ship known as the Sphere to find Jen. Along the way, Tommy is guided by the spirit of Anisi and Talon, his dead pet. Between several missions, Tommy travels to the spirit realms to converse with Anisi and unlocks new spirit powers. Eventually, we'll meet Eloit and a group of survivors from a previous abduction known as the Hidden. How these fuckers have been surviving in this shithole for years is beyond me, but I just shut off the part of my brain that has to nitpick everything to shit, which pretty much means all of it. Eloit.
So this is nothing like I've played a little bit of the 2017 Prey. Obviously, I know they're not connected whatsoever. This is nothing. They're not even remotely the same. Like, I guess it's like somewhat bio-horror, right? Because the Prey, as far as I'm remembering right, 2017 Prey was like all about these creatures and everything like that, and everything was kind of Matrix-y. This is kind of giving me that vibe. Ironically, it's kind of making me think of Prey as in the Predator movie from 22 that had to deal with indigenous American people fighting the Predator. I don't know why it gave me that intonation with like the high tech and like Native American thing going on. It's very interesting to see. I feel like there's a lot of that you don't see anymore. Is that a lot of 360 games were just like, what if we just did this? And they would go and they would carry out an idea and you'd be like, this is fucking insane. And they're like, yeah, but we did it. And it's like, you don't never really see anything like that today. Like, there's not a whole lot of like, not necessarily genre bending stuff, but things that like catch me off guard with how they integrate multiple concepts. I think that's why I like Wolfenstein a lot, because I think Wolfenstein is a more modern, I mean, somewhat, like the first game came out like 2013, but a kind of modern example of blending multiple things. And that's why I end up liking stuff like Warhammer and Diesel Punk in general, because it blends these styles of like massive machines and really high-tech stuff with like the low kind of feudalistic things you would come to expect in a less industrialized world, and kind of just forces them to work together. You know, like that's why I like the Imperial Knights, like a knight but in a mech suit. It's it's a crazy combination, but it works. And I feel like there's not a lot of games that I could think of off the top of my head. Actually, maybe Horizon would be a good example of that, where you have the super high, like, solar punk style tech, and then you just have regular ass people with spears and bows. I think that's really interesting too. The way that game's, like, the universe of Horizon is probably the most interesting part behind it, outside of the fact that the game looks fucking gorgeous. But that universe and that world is really interesting, and there's not a whole lot of other, at least in like the AAA sphere of games, that I feel like carry out with that same kind of out there ideas right away.
Guides Tommy to Jen's location and promises to use their portal device to rescue Tommy and Jen if Tommy can kill the Keeper. We fight through the sphere, battling grotesque abominations of grafted human and alien parts, solving portal and gravity shifting puzzles, and suffering through some of the most god-awfully, mind-numbingly fucking boring shuttle flying sections as we progress on our mission to save Jen, kill the Keepers, and get back to the bar to have a nice cold pint and wait for all of this to blow over. The combat is straight out of that old school style of arena shooter. If you're looking for a game where you need to use anything more complex than a simple circle strafe, you've come to the wrong neighborhood. By the end of the game, you'll have about 8 weapons you can cycle through. Sticking with the theme that everything comes from this alien ship, none of the weapons are immediately familiar. They are all just these weird combinations of alien glowing fleshy objects. Thankfully, they all have human-shaped triggers for Tommy to go on an alien murder spree, but none of the guns really left that much of an impression on me. One weird thing with the weapons is that they don't need to reload. Actually, hitting the X button makes you throw a grenade, and I can't count the number of times I accidentally threw a grenade when I was instinctively trying to reload a half-spent clip.
Maybe it's because I do love biopunk and everything, like I made the whole video on it. And I love the idea of biopunk and bioengineered weapons, as long as it's not high on life. But see my own face. That's how it'd be. Like, I have that connection to biopunk, so I do find the weapons interesting in that way. Like, I think as far as games go, like the first thing I think of is Scorn, where you have all these different weapons and stuff you can grab a hold of, and it's like they're literally melded into the flesh of your skin, because that's where biopunk is kind of at its best, and I love seeing that kind of shit. I think biopunk, right next to like diesel punk, is probably up there for me as far as like favorite genres of shit like that.
When Tommy gains access to the spirit world, he no longer dies when he's in combat. Instead, you'll be sent to the spirit world, where you can use this bow to kill these flying spirits to restore health or spirit in a timed minigame before you're sucked back to where you would have died. There's nothing special really about the combat. There's no advanced tactics. There's very few opportunities where you'll need to take an approach other than run and gun. Instead, the main focus in Prey is progressing the story and experiencing the mind-bending puzzles for navigating the ship. Tommy can exit his body to go into the spirit world, which unlocks paths only available when you're inside the spirit world. His spiritual projection can also interact with panels, leading to some very cool puzzles where you'll need to leave your body behind on a platform that will move once you've interacted with a panel from your spirit form. My explanation really doesn't do it any justice.
This is that's a fucking crazy. So you've got like 2 different health bars and 2 different bodies effectively that you're moving around. Hi Ice. Sorry, I didn't say hi. Kind of like just got right into it. That's really fucking insane though. I'm not yapping as much today. I think I'm kind of spent. I've been fucking cutting plastic for the last 5 hours. But man, that's actually really cool. Again, there's like shit like this you just don't see in games anymore. It's not that I think new games are bad necessarily. I mean, there's a higher volume, so instead of a couple bad games, there's a lot more bad games. But it sucks that so many games are afraid of like taking chances to do unique stuff. And that's why like games like Titanfall 2 with the cause and effect missions stand out. Should definitely play Prey. I should. What I've been learning from watching this is it's like there's a lot of old games that I'm like, I remember that and I remember it being cool, but I actually don't know if it was cool. You know, like I grew up on Gears. I love Gears of War. I would never recommend anyone play Gears of War 1 or 2. Gears 3, maybe. Like the multiplayer and the horde mode and stuff is fun. The story, you kind of got to be into it, or like the atmosphere of it. But like the story's not anything to super write home about. And then it's like other games that I see, like Army of Two or Dark Void or things like that, where it's like Dark Void. I remember playing the demo of it a lot and thinking that the cover looked really cool. And I never actually got around to playing it. And then I see like your video on it, Ice, and I'm like, oh, it's interesting. And then once I'm like seeing it, I'm like, I actually don't think I would enjoy playing this, but it's at least interesting to like finally have that veil uncovered, which I mean, it's probably existed for a long time. I'm just not normally the audience for these kinds of retrospective videos. This is going to be your structure you use going forward. Yeah, I think this is a lot like going back, like the games we missed, as you originally called it. It's exactly what it's great for, especially like for someone like me, where I was like kind of around in the 360 era. Like most of what I played in the 360 was like Lego games and Gears of War, and it was basically those two dichotomies. And there wasn't a whole lot of games outside of that because I just wasn't able to get a lot of games at the time. I was not in the space to be buying a bunch of games until like the Xbox One came around, and then I played a lot more games. But then it felt like all these like really out there crazy games, I never like, there was a lot of them earlier on that I was always interested in, and they kind of got phased out, and games like had less out there ideas going forward. I vaguely remember that game. Yeah, that's why, like, also, like, Enslaved is another one. I forget what the subtitle is, but, like, I remember seeing that one, playing the demo a lot, and being like, oh, I'd really love to play this game. And by the time I was, like, at the point where I could, like, play it, I had moved on to the Xbox One, and I was not going to go back and be playing 360 games. The people that played it and think it was good and want to see a review, yeah, it definitely like delves into the nostalgia for the people who are familiar, and for the people who aren't familiar, who haven't even like heard, or if you're like me and you like have seen a lot of these games. Like I've seen the what do you call it, the covers for a lot of these different games and stuff, and I just never would have gotten around to them on actually put the, you can put the and what the fuck, brain, you can put the emphasis on actually or on good, and it works both ways. Yeah, was it actually good or was it actually good? It makes a big difference. Most of these, I mean, like, I've got Conan lined up after this, and I know that one's not. I tuned into your streams a couple times when you were playing it. I was like, oh, this doesn't look great. So we'll probably hop through that after this. But, I mean, what I've learned so far is I need to go back and play Dante's Inferno and Prey, at least the original Prey. I played a little bit of the 2017 one, but No, I didn't get super far into it. My brain broke when I was trying to do the puzzles, and I gave up.
There are so many times where I was just wowed by the sheer creativity of the puzzles. And gravity manipulation is also used in the puzzle design. Activating certain panels allows you to walk on walls and ceilings, leading to some really exceptional changes in perspective. There are also these panels that you can shoot in order to switch gravity, but the puzzles involving these were just my least favorite. Even the boss combat encounters play out like puzzles. This one in particular is etched into my mind for its creativity. This hulking beast will shred you unless you duck into one of these side rooms. When the monster reaches his hand in to grab at you, you can activate the panel to turn on the energy shield, which cuts off its arm. Then you can pick up the gun that was attached to it and use it to kill him off.
See how you
That's cool. That fucking gun too is just crazy.
The gruesomeness of the sphere and what is happening to the humans is exceptionally crafted. This isn't aliens abducting people for science. This is humanity being consumed to fulfill their purpose. Around every corner is another terrifying sight of what the aliens are doing to the humans, whether it's teleporting an airplane.
That's also very important. You can't just go through and play everything. Like, I made that mistake earlier this year. Confession, I'm not getting seriously 3 or 4 or 5 done this year. I was like, at the start of this year for like New Year's, I was like, you know what? This year, I'm going to try and get the different seriously achievements done for Gears of War. And then, like, we did Judgment, and that one wasn't too bad. And then, like, we started Gears 5, and then I started doing Gears 2, and Gears 2 is just grinding and grinding and grinding. And then I got about, like, 16,000 kills into, like, the 100,000 kill thing. And I was like, man, this is putting me to fucking sleep. I cannot... I do not care enough about these achievements to like warrant the amount of not giving a fuck that I'm putting into this. And I was like, okay, you know what? I guess I'm just not doing what I said I was going to do for New Year's. That was kind of a lame expectation to make. Late last year, we talked Lost Planet, played the first, and was like, nah, I'm not playing those. Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of good fun with Lost Planet 2. I don't know how it compares to Lost Planet 1. I vaguely remember going over that. I can't say that Lost Planet 2 was like super exhilarating or like it fucking blew me away, but like to me, I do get off on like those really fucking insane, stupid bullshit anime things, and I feel like it didn't seem like it was a super prevalent thing in Lost Planet 1, but Lost Planet 2 definitely had a lot of those, and that's where I was like, okay, I'm into this. There's like a scene where they flip a train and use the gun that's built into the train while it's flipping to shoot a giant worm in the sand. Like, it is batshit insanity. And that I did appreciate about it.
And full of passengers from the sky to crash land in the sphere, or it's grafting humans onto these dog-like creatures. I just couldn't wait to see what Human Head Studios was able to come up with next. But eventually, the plot takes us to needing to climb the sphere, which involves getting into some shuttles to fly around, blasting enemies, and doing some light puzzles involving tractor beams. It's at this point that the game really drags. It's just a bunch of long stretches of monotonous flying and shooting, and this is when I started to notice how long the gaps are between story beats. You could spend an entire hour without hearing a character's voice. Eventually, we reach Jen and find her attached to one of those beasts. And after killing it, Tommy makes the tough decision to end her life and put her out of her misery. Then Tommy reaches the Keepers and discovers that the sphere seeded Earth and many other planets with life in order to eventually consume them. Tommy takes out the Keepers and eventually finds the being that's in charge of the sphere. The mother, also a human, once fought and defeated the previous mother before taking control of the sphere. After taking her out, Tommy takes control of the sphere for himself. Tommy becomes overloaded with the data and the power that's now in his possession, but thankfully his grandfather is able to remind him from beyond the grave that with great power comes great responsibility. So Tommy ends up flying the sphere into the sun to put an end to it all. Then the story writers just decided to pull a full-ass cop-out, and Tommy wakes up in the bar 6 months later.
Oh, they do.
The world thinks that people disappeared because of an unexplained natural phenomenon, and then Tommy turns around and finds that the Hidden have shown up. Apparently, they had their own portal machine that they used to escape the sphere before it burned up. They say that there are others on other worlds that would like to meet Tommy and send him through a portal where the scene fades to show Prey will continue. And oh,
dude, what's with these devs that really thought they were going to get a sequel and they just didn't get it? Like with Dante, at least you could say like, well, you know, it didn't make its targets, you know, it didn't like justify itself well enough to get a sequel. Although I think any producer worth their salt would be like, there's something here. If we continue trying it, we'll see some improvement. But like for this one, that's just a fucking shame.
man, that ending makes everything feel so much worse now looking back with the knowledge that the sequel was stuck in development hell and canceled because of corporate politics. Having researched the sequel thanks to Prey Museum, a website that archives all information about Prey, I can't say that I would have been that interested in the sequel that they were going for anyway. The plan for Prey 2 was to take the player to another world where they would inhabit the shoes of a bounty hunter in an open world setting, and really the only things to link it to the original Prey was the supposed reappearance of Tommy and that the main character was a passenger on the plane that crashed into the sphere. The radical shift in concept and the attempt to gobble. The radical shift in concept and the attempt to cobble together a loose thread sound to me like the perfect storm for a terrible sequel. Instead, it got canceled because ZeniMax acquired the rights and Bethesda deemed the project wasn't meeting their quality standards. Insert joke about Bethesda here.
Hold on. What are the quality standards of Bethesda? I want to know what... Is it Todd Howard? He comes in, it's like your game has to have 4 times the size of the map, 16 times the detail, or whatever the fuck he lied about Fallout 76 having.
According to some former developers, apparently it was actually in a working alpha state before Bethesda shut down the project, and it's believed that this was retaliation after Bethesda failed a hostile takeover of Human Head Studios. Bethesda would later force Arcane Austin to use Prey as the name for their 2017 title, despite it having no connection to the 2006 Prey. So let's answer the main question for this video. Yeah, Prey is actually really good. I'm a little upset with myself that it took me this long to play it, but pretty glad that I finally did. I was genuinely surprised at how well it commits to the atmosphere and to the story that it's trying to tell. Back in 2006, this was cutting edge and shocking, and in 2025, the creativity still shines through. There are some glaring game design problems that take away from the experience, like the shuttle sequences and the length between story moments, but there's enough good here to outweigh any of that. Overall, it's a damn good game. So what do you think?
Interesting. It does kind of give me Wolfenstein vibes, like Wolfenstein: The New Order vibes, but with it just works, yeah. Except for like aliens and biopunk rather than Nazis and diesel punk. It's got like the same kind of structure, I feel. At least with like Jen getting molded into the alien thing, because it's kind of like they pull the same thing in Wolfenstein. First time I played Bioshock, yeah. Bioshock's definitely, because Bioshock is, I mean, it's obviously biopunk, and then it's like biopunk and decopunk with like the 1920s thing, where you've got like that body, like that element of body horror mixed into everything else. And I think that's definitely probably, when was Bioshock came out after it, wasn't it? Hello, Hudson. Welcome.
Is Prey actually good? Have you played it? Is it still on your backlog? Are you disappointed that Prey 2 never saw the light of day? Let me know in the comments
I am
below.
now.
And while
I gotta go play it. See, the problem with this is the more you work through your backlog, Ice, and the more I find these games that like are interesting for me to want to go back and play. Now my backlog is bigger, and now I gotta make the time to go and play all these games. Oh man, but that's great. I probably should have. Hold on. Don't play it again. Just I need the URL. Thank you. I'm gonna drop that. Look, it only took me half an hour to get through the 12-minute video instead of an hour and a half. There's the video in chat. If anyone wants to go check it out, leave a like. And now we have the bad one. I only know briefly because I stopped in on a few of the streams. I don't think this game is nearly, or is going to be nearly as impressive as... Enjoy this video while you get set up. Okay, you're going to start streaming. Okay. Good. I don't think this one's going to be nearly as impressive as Dante's Inferno, but we'll see. Is Ice watching the sunset video? I'll be watching. I'm going to live react to Ice reacting to my... No, that's too much. Okay, let's just get into it.
So you probably didn't know this, but THQ actually made a licensed game based on Conan the Barbarian. Hell, I didn't know about it until I spotted the game on the shelf at the local game store that I browse
Again with
every
the
other
snazzy
weekend.
music.
All right, let's just get through this one quickly because I don't want to spend too much time on this video. I already spent way too much time on this game. I didn't like it. All right, jokes aside, simply titled Conan, the game was released for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 in September of 2007 and was developed by Nihilistic Software, known for their other releases. So THQ didn't exactly put the A-team on Conan, but hey, what do you expect? 2007 is when THQ was just bleeding money. The situation was so bad for THQ in 2007 that they actually made Conan release in late 2007 instead of spring 2008 as they originally planned. But I won't go into all of that detail. Hell, I already made another long as shit video about the downfall of THQ and Homefront and how its failure ended up being the straw that broke the camel's back and led to THQ's collapse. What needs to be said about the history of Conan the Barbarian? It's one of the most recognizable pop culture IPs that pretty much everyone knows the name of. But
see, I don't know fuck all about Conan. I know it's Arnold, and I know it's like, I know all of like the old... I don't even know if it's necessarily Conan, but all the old barbarian artworks. I'm gonna forget his name, but I know those and like how they're revered for like the artistry of the human form. You don't know fuck all about it. Fair enough.
only a few people know anything beyond the fact that there's a movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, hell, that's all I know. That and what is best in life.
Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women.
I'm not even going to try to go into depth about Conan. All you really need to know is that Conan the Barbarian first appeared...
Talk about shit I don't know unless it's just recapping a wiki. Fair enough. For the longest time, the existence, because I knew about Conan the Barbarian for a while. Like, he was just kind of like in the back of my mind, like first. And then I like learned who Conan O'Brien was, and I was really confused for a second because I was like, why is this guy named after a barbarian? I was like, 12 years old or something probably. But I remember being very, very confused at like Team Coco Conan after kind of like generally knowing about what the idea of Conan the Barbarian was in the back of my mind. I remember it really like struck me as odd. I was like, you're not Arnold. You're like a weird tall Irish man.
In short stories written by Robert E. Howard in the 1930s. Many depictions, stories, and adaptations have been made to expand on those original stories. Set in Hyboria, the age between the fall of Atlantis and the rise of known ancient civilizations, bloodshed and magic are everywhere, and wizards, demons, and sorceresses blight the world. It's a really brutal setting. The men are beefcakes, and there are boobs everywhere. So it's a pretty easy setting with lots of rich lore and well-loved stories to draw from for the video game. And they were able to secure an M for mature rating, meaning that there's gotta be some of that brutal world here. It'd be pretty hard to fuck this up, right? Right? I'm Ice Cold Snake, and welcome back to Games We Skipped, the series where we take a look at the games that flew under the radar and went mostly forgotten. Or in Conan's case, completely forgotten. But now, years later, I'm diving back in.
See, I don't think this one's completely forgotten. I feel like I always stared at it. I might have picked it up on like a Games for Gold or Games with Gold month at some point. It might be in my library, if I remember right. Or maybe I'm just remembering it. Or maybe there was a different Conan game. Was there a free-to-play Conan game? And I might be thinking of something like that instead as well. But I feel like this is a game that's always stuck out in the side of my head, in the back of my mind, even though I don't know anything about it.
See what we all missed. Conan went mostly forgotten because it's the definition of mid. It's just fucking boring. The entire game can be played with your brain turned off, and you can just mash buttons in all of the fights. If you look at the reviews, and as you can see from my footage, it's a God of War clone through and through. And that's not immediately a problem. I mean, there can be good God of War clones, but this ain't one of them. It's got all of the trappings of a God of War clone. It's got the fixed camera for the action. It's got light attacks, heavy attacks, combos are important. Dodge roll is on your right stick. There are chests and pots that drop healing orbs. Pressing the right bumper will open up the chest.
The icons for like the healing orbs and stuff are just throwing me off because they just look like unfinished assets that are just sort of like floating around.
There are multiple magic spells. There are epic boss battles against giant monsters. And of course, there are quick time events.
What the... Dude, that explanation of the author was... What? Games we skipped was a stepping stone idea to was it actually good? I mean, yeah, like, was it actually good is just a more simple way of conveying what the idea is, because games we skipped is like... I think games we skipped implies that it's like completely unheard of games or like underrated games, but was it actually good opens the door to like, say like Gears of War. I talk about fucking the old school Gears of War games all the time. Gears 1 and Gears 2 are like revered by like the gaming community, especially like older heads and stuff like that. But like, I don't think they were especially great games, you know? Okay, is like a noun without a question. Yeah, that too. But like, they're like fine, but unless you have like a specific intonation to getting into like an older game, you're not going to go back and play Gears of War 2 and have a good time with it. Letting me play good games, that too. It lets you like, it's more playing on like the nostalgia bait aspect of it rather than just the, you know, underrated or unheard of aspect. So it plays more on the nostalgia, which is better, especially for like drawing people in. At least I believe so. I remember this boss fight.
So you might be saying that lots of games have those features, and that doesn't exactly make it a God of War clone. But Nihilistic themselves even said that they sought out an opportunity to make a game like God of War after the release of Marvel Nemesis in 2005. So how does it play? Well, let's first get through the story since there isn't a whole lot to discuss. The story is actually based off of one of the original short stories from 1934 with some tweaks to characters and to settings. While pillaging a tomb, Conan accidentally frees the imprisoned evil wizard Graven. Graven curses Conan's magic armor, scattering it across the world and teleporting Conan away. Conan seeks to reclaim his magic armor and ventures to various locales.
Oh, okay, so there's a reason for why. I always assumed he was just naked for the sake of being naked. I didn't know there was an actual narrative lore implication for why he's always going around in a loincloth.
To find it. On his travels, he meets Akana, a warrior queen.
I am Conan. I serve no man.
Perhaps you would serve a woman then.
Service her. Aye, and gladly.
Akana seeks a cure for the Black Death, a curse cast by Graven that is causing her people to kill each other. Teaming up, the duo travel across the world, battling armies of soldiers, epic monsters.
Why did she... Hold on, by the way. Why does she have, like, like 4-inch diameter ring earrings? That caught me so off guard. I was, like, paying attention to, like, what was being said, and I didn't realize that she's got fucking sonic rings for earrings.
The duo travel across the world, battling armies of soldiers, epic monsters, and
It's
all
like-
with an
In the Middle Ages. And she's got these just fucking massive ass earrings.
air of sexual tension. As Conan defeats a boss and reclaims his armor pieces during the chapters, cutscenes will play to tell of how Graven came to be imprisoned. And it all gives a sense of mystery unfolding piece by piece, which I actually really enjoyed. We uncover that Graven created the Black Death to shape the world to his liking. To do so, he imprisoned several gods, which led to many spirits and men working together to imprison Graven. And now that Graven's free, he plans to complete the creation of the Black Death, which requires the sacrifice of his own daughter, Akana.
What a twist!
Eventually, Conan and Akana defeat her father to end the curse, freeing the imprisoned gods who condemned Graven to eternal torment. Conan reclaims his armor and parts ways with Akana as he sets off for another adventure. And the old woman telling this tale to the kids of the village and narrating our story turns out to be Akana many years later. All of that's a pretty good story and all, but what's missing here is everything between the lines of what I just said. What you get instead is that overview sprinkled sentence by sentence over the course of 6 hours of gameplay, with hour-long gaps between each story beat. For most of the game, it's unclear why Conan is where he is, and when you do eventually find a piece of armor, it's unclear why he's going to the next.
Before Tolkien, Robert Howard is seen as the grandfather of fantasy and sword and sorcery. Maybe in a more generic lens, but like, that's fair. I mean, I'm not super familiar with the etymology of fantasy as a... Etymology is the wrong fucking word to use there. The the history of like fantasy as a genre. But like, meh. It's an interesting, like, that's like a trivia fact. But like, Tolkien, my goat. I think Lord of the Rings is still my favorite series of stories, like, to this day. Like, it's a very, very basic favorite to have, or like a basic opinion to have, but like, I just like those books, man. Sword and sorcery, its own genre. I mean, that too. It's like, I don't know why, but like Conan specifically gives me like the vibes of Army of Darkness, Evil Dead. Very, very stupidly specifically.
Place. There aren't any moments for Conan to process what's going on or where he's going or even understand the people who he's fighting against. Things just sort of happen. And you'll quickly just turn your brain off because there's no stimulation at all. You'll be fighting a massive magic-empowered man or the soul of an undead elephant, and there will be no explanation for why.
Lord of the Rings, my favorite fantasy stories, canceled for controversial. Hey, I know, I understand that it's basic. It's just that the prose of Tolkien, like the, not prose as in P-R-O-S, but P-R-O-S-E, like the literal prose literary devices that he uses in his writing, is something I take a lot of inspiration from. And I do like the more, what do you call it? Removed themes of the universe that is reinforced by every single character. Linguistic professor wrote very well. He did. He was fucking, I mean, he was a super nerd. He like wrote languages for fun and then wrote a book to justify writing the languages. He and Lovecraft tended to blend ideas because Howard often introduced ideas like eldritch and horror into his Conan setting. Maybe. I actually don't know where I know Lovecraft is, well, he's also super fucking racist, but like I know he's also credited with like the foundations of Eldritch. They were friends when they were alive? What? Howard and Lovecraft? That makes me like Robert Howard a little bit less. You tell me he's best buds with Lovecraft? That kind of hurts his credibility in my eyes. Saying he like founded the fantasy as a genre before Tolkien. Now I kind of want to like just be more dismissive of that fact. I'm ops with anyone who was buddy with Lovecraft. That feels like not a good place to be, even for 1930. Like Lovecraft was racist for the 1930s, 1940s. Like even back then, people were like, "Dude, you gotta chill out." So like, you imagine putting up with someone like that? Oh. That would be insane. I guess it's like being friends with Kanye West today, now. They were of their time. He's still a feminist of his... I don't know who you're talking about. You're using they and then he without like the actual name preceding it. Like I don't doubt that they both had... Like I don't doubt that even like Tolkien had some racist ideas, like how he like later on in his life tried to backtrack the idea that... not all orcs are evil, because calling an entire ethnic group to say that like they're all evil is like really insane and just kind of backwards. Do not Google Lovecraft's cats. I know what his cat is named. It's crazy, but yeah, it's fucking insane. There's an insane cat. But yeah, I don't doubt that they're all like a little bit racist for the sign of the times, but like that's not really an excuse, you know. We have people from history that we know that were outwardly like not racist, maybe not to like the extent of like the kind of literary non-racism that you get today, but it's it's definitely more so of the fact that like it helps to understand, but it's not an excuse. And I very much hold that even like as a thing even today, you know. Like I can understand why like a 14-year-old Buster McTunder in 2016 was like a little bit more homophobic than he is today, but like that doesn't excuse the fact that like I was a stupid little retard child, you know. Even if it was kind of just how things tended to be at the time, it doesn't really absolve that. But it's more so like changing, learning, and going forward with it, and not naming your cat the N-word with a hard R, because that's fucking insane. But I guess he wrote stories about Squid God, so some people just tend to not care. It's like Ronnie Radke's like that too. These people are kind of just like he's not nearly as bad as Love. Maybe, actually. I don't want to say one way or the other. But these people are just sort of like kind of awful, bad people. But they like have like some artistic merit behind their name. I don't even really want to say that for Radke. I'm way off topic from Conan now. But like, because they're like connected to an artistic property, people tend to like shy away from them just the smallest extent, which I always find odd. Reference the Falling in Reverse singer? Yeah, Ronnie Radke. Okay. Yeah, fuck that guy. Yeah, fuck Ronnie Radke and his fragile fucking ego. Seeing him beef with people, like people will make TikToks about Ronnie Radke. The TikTok gets 2,000 views. Nobody fucking sees the TikTok. Nobody cares about the TikTok. Ronnie Radke will personally respond to it and like start calling the person names. And it's like, dude, you have millions of dollars. You helped them like. You helped one of your buddies kill someone else in the early 2000s or whatever. It's just like, go off and enter oblivion and just like don't exist anymore. Like you don't have to exist. But he's still like just around and doing stupid bullshit. He grew up in Texas that was very cynical and brutal at times. Texas during the oil rush, so he was already against authority for his time. I guess so. But again, that's not really like, it doesn't excuse anything for me, even if it does like mend its way to some understandings, you know?
And Conan will have no reaction to it. I'm not saying that we need to have Conan talking like a modern Sony game.
This must be the Zenith base. Looks like they have a shield around the entire place. Of course, they'd make their base on their own private island. Hold on, Beta. Coming for you soon. But to the current problem.
Can you shut the fuck up?
But it would be nice to know what's going on in his brain, or if he even has one. And since we're about to talk about gameplay, let's just rip the band-aid off and start comparing it to God of War. You could summarize God of War in a pretty similar manner to what I just did for Conan, and I'll do that briefly for the first game since that was the only one out at the time of Conan's development. Kratos is a badass Spartan warlord that promises to serve the god of war Ares if Ares will smite his enemies when Kratos has finally been defeated in battle. Kratos is bound to the Blades of Chaos and carries out orders to destroy the enemies of Ares. During one such attack, Ares blinds Kratos with fury, causing him to strike down his own wife and child. Kratos, consumed with hatred, pledges to kill Ares for Athena. Kratos overcomes many epic battles, gathering powerful magical artifacts, and finds Pandora's.
I'd probably like him because he was all about being a manly man and fighting and boxing and being a big drinker. Why would you think that's something that that sounds like a shitty Ron Swanson parody. You went off on a tangent here. Oh, you also got lost in the God of War
box to gain
God
the
of War
power
sauce?
needed to slay Ares. But before he can do so, Ares kills him and sends him to the underworld, where he climbs out, finds Ares and opens Pandora's box in order to finally kill him and have his sins forgiven. When Kratos discovers that Athena cannot erase his nightmares of slaying his own family, Kratos casts himself into the Aegean Sea, in one of the most emotionally powerful cutscenes ever, I might add. But before he dies, he is saved by Athena, sent to Mount Olympus, and given the reward of being adorned as the new God of War. That pretty much sums up God of War. Except what makes God of War so memorable is all of the things that happen in between those major plot lines. Like when Kratos is guided by Athena throughout his journey, or when he kills off the boat captain to take his key, and then we find him again in the underworld.
You again?
Or how the narrator explains
He is in the
Kratos'
Ragnarok
journey
DLC
to reach
too.
Pandora's box.
Not DLC.
For 3 days,
Expansion.
Kratos climbed the sheer walls of the mountain. He knew he would either recover Pandora's box or perish inside the cursed temple, never to return to the world of man.
See, it's all these little things throughout the adventure that connect you to Kratos and to the Greek mythology and world that the game takes place in, but none of that happens here in Conan. Instead, you're just shuffled along to new areas via loading screens, with nearly every chapter starting with the same starting point. And I don't know how much more I could say about the story. The big takeaway is that there's just no hook for you to grab onto, no world building, there's no epic plot.
Why does he even have a sheath if it's just gonna not cover the tip of his sword? What happens if he just stabbed himself in the ass? Sorry, we just got through with like Dante's Inferno last night, which had like such fucking excellent design. And it's like, he's got this design for his sword sheath that's probably supposed to make it look more dangerous and more cool. But it just sort of makes like Conan look like a dumbass. Like, why just put it, where's the rest of your sheath, man? We have those for a reason. You could say it makes you look cool, but like, you know, being safe is also cool.
Beyond wizard bad. You don't even really learn what Evil Graven is up to until about the last hour of the game, and until then, you're just looking for the fuckers that stole your armor. So, does the gameplay and combat make up for the story? No, not in the fucking slightest. The combat relies entirely on combos, which is pretty standard for games in this genre. You'll start off the game with very few combos, and as you kill enemies, you'll earn red orbs, which can be spent to acquire new combos. Some of the combos can actually improve after you use them enough to gain full mastery of the combo. Doing so makes the combo drop additional XP orbs, green HP orbs, or blue mana orbs. And that's pretty much it for the progression system. You just get red orbs, purchase a specific combo, get red orbs, purchase another combo, so on and so forth. So to stretch all of this out, and because God of War of course had multiple weapon types, there are different weapons that can be picked up and combos for each type. There's the basic one-handed weapon that Conan starts with, which can be augmented by picking up or stealing an enemy's shield using one of the combos later on in the game. There's also dual wielding an axe or another sword in your offhand, and there are larger bastard swords or pole arms that you pick up. I ended up never using the larger weapons because the windups are just too long, and instead I just stuck with the dual wielding. The combos are actually pretty well done. One in particular makes Conan grab the enemy and suplex them to unleash a shockwave that damages all surrounding enemies. But a lot of the combos are situational, and you have to know the exact combination.
So you tell me the whole point about Conan is to be a manly man who doesn't need help. It's like the opposite of Lord of the Rings. Literally the whole emotional or like thematic core at the heart of Lord of the Rings is that love and friendship will always beat out evil. Versus Conan is just like, no, fuck that, murder.
That you're trying to go for, because if you make one mistake near the end, you can have a completely different outcome for what you're trying to do. Like if you're trying to disarm an enemy, at the end of your combo you need to hit the Y button, but if you want to steal their shield you hit B. So if you forget and you accidentally hit B but they don't have a shield, well, you just got yourself screwed over and now you're about to get hit and take a lot of damage. But the sheer volume of combos is both a blessing and a curse. By the midpoint of the game, I just stopped purchasing combos altogether because the list was already much larger than I could remember, and I just didn't want to have to open the menu anymore and look through the combos to find the one needed for any situation. I ended up turning to just button mashing the same few combos, which is kind of exactly what the developers wanted, so hats off, I guess. The combat itself is full of problems. It's one of those like game feel things that you probably won't even be able to grasp until you play it and feel it for yourself. It's all just...
Spoiler alert. I'm never going to touch this game. I'm going to take your word for it that it's probably really, really bad. But I'm never going to give this the chance, the light of day, to attempt to see how bad the feel is in the game itself.
Just really stiff for multiple reasons. One of my favorite things that I've learned about game design in recent years comes from a GDC presentation from 2017 God of War's lead gameplay designer Jason McDonald. In the presentation, he tells about how they designed the new Kratos' combat around the phrase, "plow the road." This simple mantra is felt throughout the combat as you push enemies away and into each other with every swing of Kratos' axe. A simple idea like making sure you feel like you're plowing a road can have such a massive impact on the way that a game's combat is designed to feel. I bring this up because during the same presentation, Jason explains that the mantra for the original God of War was ballet of fire. Kratos dances around the battlefield with subtle footwork, swinging the flaming blades of chaos at all enemies and twirling around in an act of grace.
Oh, that's why you
power.
specifically brought up the ballet thing in Dante's Inferno. Okay, now it makes more sense. See, I'm watching the episodes out of order.
And to the player, you feel like Kratos is gliding around, responding to your every input. And if you hit the joystick in a direction while attacking, Kratos steps in that direction while attacking to close the distance, and Kratos responds to your changes in direction as you try to deal with the crowds of enemies that are swarming you.
Bot.
Conan has the crowd of enemies part, but not the rest.
I don't even
Conan's
bother to
attacks aren't really
ban
capable of dealing with crowds of enemies. He's really only equipped to focus on small groups or one target at a time. And that's a problem in the later stages when you start getting ganged up on by like 5 or 6 enemies all at once. When you press the attack button, Conan stops all movement and just stands still to attack. And there are so many times where you'll just accidentally stop in place and you'll miss your swing at an enemy by about a foot, because you just expect Conan to lean or step forward into the attack. And this just kills the momentum that you've built up.
Yeah, it just looks absolutely stiff as shit. Like, I don't know how... I feel like, especially for a game like this, where you have like a non-centered camera, combat, stuff like that, like having momentum and that momentum feel is kind of like the main point.
As you run into the group of enemies to fight them, it makes you feel like you just don't have control over Conan. When you complete a combo, the game goes into a slow-mo cinematic camera so you can see the finisher, but it also goes into this camera even if you fail to hit the enemy with the combo finisher, which again just slows down the fight and completely kills any momentum that you might be feeling. When you do finally hit an enemy, they'll usually just block your attacks constantly, and then they'll retaliate quickly with attacks that have very few frames. This is pretty much what every fight looks like.
Not gonna lie, kind of looks like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. At least Odyssey in like the later levels, when all the enemies have like way too much health than they should. This is just riveting.
You can parry an enemy's attack, and if you do so, you'll get a chance to counter with an instant kill if you hit the button prompts, and these are fucking awesome. But there are 2 main issues with these parry kills. One is the short window where you have to press the correct button. The parry window is so tight that I'd never really trusted that I would be able to land the parry, so I would just end up button mashing my next attack and I'd fail the prompt before I even had a chance to register that it was on the screen. And the other problem is you just don't get to decide what type of parry kill you're gonna do. You're just at the mercy of the RNG. You also get access to 4 magic powers that you unlock over the course of the game, with each successive power requiring an additional bar from your mana pool. The first
Having to like manually draw the arrows out of you that get stuck in you is kind of interesting. That's like the one singular interesting mechanic that I've picked up on. But it is there.
spell is a spell to turn enemies in front of you to stone. It's a very small radius to cast it, and it's difficult to aim, so about half the time I would just fucking miss. The second is a rain of fire. You can guess what this does. The third is a swarm of evil ravens called down to attack your enemies. And these are pretty much fucking useless because the 3 times I used them, they wouldn't hit any enemies. And the last one that you'll get is the ability to create a black hole, which really just kicks so much fucking ass. But the only problem with it is that it also costs all 4 of your bars of magic. And the game is pretty stingy with the amount of magic that you'll get. So you'll only be able to maybe use this twice.
So he just straight up cuts a hole into the fabric reality. Now that's kind of cool. Unfortunately, the rest of the game doesn't follow it up at all.
During the final 2 chapters of the game, and fans of Conan's lore will probably be confused as to why Conan is using magic here in the game, something that he's adamantly against using in all of the short stories. IGN's review actually captured this, calling Conan's use of magic blasphemy. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention it, but the more you attack enemies, the more you'll fill this yellow bar, and once it's filled, you'll enter Song of Death mode, causing Conan's attacks to unleash shockwaves and do more damage. But if you get hit while you're in it, you'll exit the mode, and I'm pretty sure I only got to use it like 3 times during the whole game and only for a few seconds each because it's just so difficult to avoid getting hit in this game. The combat just becomes such a chore that I ended up growing to despise it and just hoped for a way I could skip it. And that's exactly what I did. Unlike God of War and most other action games, you're not forced to kill all of the enemies before you can advance. You can actually just spend most of the game running past every enemy. I ended up skipping most of the fights in the later half of the game. And in addition to the combat, there are some light puzzles, and by puzzles I mean you get stopped at a dead end, you run around a long time until you find one thing that you can press the right bumper on, he pushes a pillar over, then you can climb up on top of it to reach a higher level, or you can walk across it like a bridge. That's it. There are also these runes on the ground. Touching all 3 within a short time limit will reward you with an increase to your HP, your mana, or your Song of Death bar. But the only collectible that really matters in the world of Conan are the women. Throughout the levels, you'll find maidens that are captured and bound. Saving them rewards you with 100 experience points, basically making them treasure chests with legs and boobs. I, for one, am glad that they earned the M rating by investing so much into the boob jiggle physics. Now, ordinarily, this would be a joke to get you to look back over at the screen, but no, they actually do show full boob in Conan. Too bad for you, this is YouTube, and
Despite how he looks, Conan isn't based on the Spartans. I feel like I didn't get... That's a great frame to pause on. I didn't get Spartan whatsoever from Conan. He's like not Spartan at all. You know, he's got all like the animal dressings and stuff. Irish heritage fascinating. Real history and culture despite being seen as a fantasy setting these days. Make it real life and create a real timeline? Maybe. I don't know what the historical accuracy of Conan is, though. I wouldn't necessarily wager that it's super historically accurate for, ancient Ireland, the Gaelic people and their heritage. I could be off, but I wouldn't expect it to be super historically accurate. You know, besides all the monsters and bullshit like that.
I won't be showing any of it to you, but you can rest assured that I enjoyed it on your behalf. All right, and so I've basically talked about this game more than I ever wanted to, so let's just speed through some final thoughts. The music is fucking incredible. The boss fights are insanely epic. They're the best part of the entire fucking game. The general combat is just a boring slog. I wasn't engaged with it like at fucking all, and so I was just skipping it all the time. And the final boss just takes way too long to kill. We're talking multiple phases, a mechanic that gives you barely any time to react, and 3 of the exact same QuickTime event sequences in order to kill him. So this version of Conan will go into my pile of bad games that I'm glad went forgotten and I skipped back when they came out. But instead of playing them back then when, I couldn't give a shit about the quality of games, I got to play Conan now. And now is when I'm committed to spending hours reviewing games from the bargain bin of history. At least eventually, if I keep this up, I'll get to play a good game, right? Right? Well, anyway, massive shout out to my first channel member, Alec, for supporting the channel. You can support me for free by clicking the subscribe button, or you can have your name listed right here on screen next to the legendary Alec for only $1 a month. If you've got a game that you want to see me cover, let me know in the comments below. I also stream every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Pacific on YouTube and Twitch. Come hang out and chat about the games that we skipped live. With that, I'm Ice Cold Snake. I'll see you next time.
So we don't see Conan wearing armor too often? Oh, fair enough. Yeah. That was very interesting. Not nearly as good as Dante's Inferno, but it was interesting. And then I think if we come back here, Oh, it's actually a live premiere. So he's up there. Okay. I don't think we had anything else. There was nothing in the Discord for stuff requested for stream. I hope that didn't just break that. Okay, we're good. Just Ice's stuff. I'm not going to watch his one that's live now. We can save that for later. Or, even better, because I have an Imperial Knight to put together. Can you raid on YouTube? I mean, there's only like 2 people here. But I guess it'll be interesting to know for future reference. I'm going to link here Ice's stream. Being a typical warrior, Conan is very intelligent a lot of the time. I don't get intelligence from what I've seen of him, but sure. I'm gonna link that there. That's his current live thing for the Iron Man 360 tie-in. Go ahead, go over there, go check it out. Go check out Ice's live Yap Fest, talking about that. I might pop in there too, but I'm making it a short one tonight because I have other Warhammer stuff to get to and other behind-the-scenes stuff that I'm not telling anyone about right now, but we'll be talking about in the future. Anyways, thank you for joining me for this short, but, fun little Yap Fest. We will be back probably Friday, for sure, next Saturday, 9 p.m. Central Time. I know it was really, really short tonight. I'm just not feeling it. And I don't want to sit here and just sort of meander around for a couple of hours and kind of do a really painfully boring stream, as opposed to saving my energy for stuff that currently has my attention, so we can come back next week and be just as strong, and not just watching someone else's content, because I do I do feel bad about that when it's all I'm doing. Anyways, thank you everybody so much for watching. It's linked in chat. Go check out Ice's stream and his new video and everything like that, and I will see you next week, 9 p.m. Central Time, linked in the Discord always, obviously, and have a wonderful